Hello and welcome to another Jay's Politics podcast, part of the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network. You can reach us at podcast99.org where you can select to follow us. By following us there, you'll get an email notification every time that we upload an episode of any sort, whether it be my show, any one of Dave's shows, or such shows like the Ale Evangelist or Tim Prayus' show. Hope I pronounced that right. Anyways, this is another episode of This Week in U.S. Politics. I am still not live on the air on the internet radio show yet. For those of you wondering what happened to episode 5, I recorded it. I just haven't gotten it over to Dave just yet. So, anyways, with all that said, let's begin today. Like I said, this is This Week in Politics episode number 6. And again, I'm not live on the radio yet. I still got one more thing that I want to test, but I just want to make sure that I'm testing it when there's not anything going on too important. And with it being Passover, I didn't want to bother Dave today to see if this episode would be a good one to try and do that on. So I thought I would just go ahead and do it, just do my normal thing and come back to it later in the week, whatnot. So, in politics today, in This Week in Politics specifically, a lot going on. If you've been following any of the news today, you'll know that Donald Trump is calling out Amazon and Jeff Bezos for having such a bad deal with the U.S. Post Office, having been a former postal employee, actually having a day where I was guaranteed to work, such as holidays and Sundays. Not a bad deal. As you can see, I've got my Mariners hat on. This is from last June. We went, I think this was in celebration of Gay Pride Month. So, hats off to the Mariners. I don't know how they're doing today. I heard I've had had some friends watching the game, but I haven't checked it out yet myself. But just one of those things. Trying to do 5 different things all at once and check it all out and try and keep abreast of everything. Kind of hard to do. So, a couple things that I thought I would talk about today. One local here in Washington State. Looks like the state government is finally getting its butt in gear and actually passing a budget that funds the school system. The other is I just decided I haven't done any bills from Congress in a while, U.S. Congress for a while, so I thought I would check one of those out. Those of you that are watching here on YouTube or live or later, you'll notice that I've got a new boom arm. I've been meaning to get one of these for quite a while. It's just that, money. But this frees me up so that way I'm not feeling like I'm going to hit. That way it doesn't feel like I'm actually going to be hitting the boom right here next to me. I can come up and do my air quotes without bumping it. Now with the shock mount, it wasn't too big of a deal, but this one is so much nicer. So, again, with Trump and the Jeff Bezos thing, I don't see what too much of a big deal it is to Trump that that Amazon is got this deal where pretty much the post office loses about $1.50 on every package that they deliver for Amazon. Because it's not actually tied to the federal budget. The U.S. Postal Service, USPS, funds itself. It has been hampered by Congress when competing with UPS and FedEx, as well as it's been hampered by its own responsibilities, air quotes here, responsibilities to funding the retirements of its employees and former and future former employees. Basically, they've been told to fund X number of dollars and as well as try to operate in the black, which they haven't been able to do. It's hard running a business, and the federal government is not helping itself run a private business, so to speak. Now, same could probably be said of Amtrak as well. Amtrak is also a federal government, entity, so to speak. But enough on Trump and Amazon and USPS. I just want you to know that I think that it's a moot point because Trump's a businessman himself. If he were running Amazon, he'd probably be doing the same thing. So, not my thing. The other tie-in is the fact that Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. He wants Washington Post to be, or not so much Washington Post, but maybe Jeff Bezos himself to be listed as a lobbyist. I don't know. It is what it is. Amazon already has its own lobbying staff. It's registered as a lobbyist. But I guess the Washington Post either needs to be or Jeff Bezos needs to be. I haven't been able to get the whole story on that. So going back to the state of Washington here, this week, Jay Inslee signed a bill into law, basically a supplemental budget, boosting K through 12 spending. The supplemental state budget that passes for the final piece of a long-running court case on basic education funding was signed into law Tuesday by Washington Governor Jay Inslee. Anybody who's lived in the state of Washington knows that there's been a huge issue with the state funding the public school system. Not talking about the private schools, not talking about things where people have to pay tuition, things like that. I'm literally talking about K through 12 public schools. I went to one here in the state. I went to pretty much all of my entire childhood was in public schools. I grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, not too far from where I'm living right now. And I went to, Stevens, Central Park, Alexander Young, and when I was in band, I went to T.W.I.U.S.P for that. So that's four of, Stevens, Robert Gray, Central Park, McDermott, then Alexander Young, no longer in school, T.W.I.U.S.P, Cosmopolis. I might be forgetting St. Mary's, but I think that might have been a private school. I don't know for sure because it was Catholic school, so I'm assuming it's private. And if I forgot one, sorry guys. I know the alternative high school also kind of had like a daycare / elementary side to it. It was Harbor High. Then you had, Miller Junior High for all those elementary schools to go to. And then you had J.P. Weatherwax, the high school. But anyways, I ended up in high school going to Wichita Valley, which is literally a K through 12 school. I graduated with 10 other people, and we had a total, I think at the time I graduated, 250 kids K through 12, maybe a little less. I might be adding the preschoolers in there too. That tells you how small of a school I went to. Anyways, back here in Washington, we are having an issue with our state government following its constitutional responsibility, and it can't. Unfortunately, the Senate and the House cannot buck its responsibility to anybody else. It has to properly fund the public school system. Now, if I remember correctly, the McCleary School District filed a suit against the state for not properly funding it, and it's gone all the way up to the state Supreme Court, which ruled the state is not doing its job, i.e. the Senate and the House are not passing a budget that properly fund the school districts. School districts are having to rely heavily on property tax levies, which most are not getting passed these days for those types of things. Now, I don't own a house, so I don't understand why people would not want to pass the levies to pay for their children's school. Again, I don't even have children, so I don't understand. I won't say I don't understand the why, but I definitely don't see the point in them not passing them. I mean, it's just, you want your kids to have the best education they can. We're going to have to pass property taxes. Now, I know when those things come up on the ballot, I do vote on them and I look into them because I know that renting a house or an apartment, that means my rent goes up on property taxes just like everybody else's that owns a house. So it behooves me as a renter to know what's in these bills too. So what we do is entirely our responsibility as the citizens, as the electorate, so to speak, on this. So why then Are we just now in the last, I want to say it's been almost a decade now that this court between the court battle and everything going on. Why are we just now, 2018, finally passing a budget in how many years to actually fund the school system? I can't say. It's literally mind-boggling why the state thinks that it doesn't need to do this. They were trying to say a bunch of things. But anyways, back to back to this particular bill is that the plan makes several tweaks in the spending of the current $43.7 billion 2-year state budget that was adopted last summer, bumping the current operating budget up to $44.6 billion, with a much with much of the increase going towards education. Lawmakers needed to speed up the fully funding teachers' salaries as they work to satisfy a 2012 state Supreme Court ruling known as the McCleary ruling that found that K-12 schooling funding was inadequate. The salary component was expedited to enact later this year. I have plenty of friends that teach. I have plenty of my friends that taught over the years. There are quite a few of my friends on my Facebook page that are or were teachers, and I totally understand, you know, the hours that they put in, especially hearing from my friends nowadays that are teachers that are making the same sacrifices. You know, I like to think that I could teach, but it's not something I want to do. Um, but I like to think that I can actually teach people how to do something. Um, but having to spend my own personal money and maybe not even making enough to get by, because I mean, you'll hear news stories all over the place about how teachers in the state aren't making enough and they're having to work 2, 3 jobs just to support themselves, let alone, you know, have time to create their papers and things like that. So maybe funding can go towards upping some of these salaries. Not everybody right away, but I don't know. It's just one of those things we have to sit down and look at what the overall problem with the education system is, not just the funding, but where is all the money going to? Is it going to athletic programs such as football, basketball, baseball, soccer, etc.? Or is it going to where it properly needs to go to, you know, the math, sciences, the arts? I'm a big proponent of the arts. I would much rather see schools focus on not just the testing side of things, but also provide kids a creative outlet, you know? Let them have art classes, let them have music classes. Give them an outlet besides sports to be creative. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I feel. It's just one of those things where we, as citizens of the state, we need to allow this to go through. Totally forgot if I'm on episode 6 or 7. According to my YouTube, I'm on 7. Okay. If I said it wrong or I'm recording it wrong, I'll have to figure that out. Oh well. Pulling up the chat and all of a sudden just realized I might have titled this wrong. Oh well. It is what it is. And back to back to our segment here. It is kind of a hollow statement here that I'm seeing from Governor Inslee about this in this Olympian report. Quote, "Our motivation has always been the kids," Inslee, end quote. Inslee told reporters after signing the bill. Quote, "We believe that by satisfying the McCleary decision, we satisfy a higher purpose, which is our moral responsibility to our children and our grandchildren. Our kids and our grandchildren. And I feel good about that," end quote. Okay. That is kind of hollow, in my opinion. It is one of those things where I just don't think the government realizes what its true responsibility is in this case. It doesn't understand why we, the citizenry, feel like they're failing us in the educational department. And it's not just the funding side of things, really. It is totally the fact that you expect us to pay for it in property taxes at a local level. The community I lived in, the Wishkah Valley, that would pay for this, are not a bunch of rich people. They're not a bunch of people that can afford to do much of anything. So there are some out there that are wealthy. I get that. I'm not going to argue that point. Whether it be via trucking, whether it be working as longshoremen at the port down in Aberdeen or in Hoquiam, fine. Those people are great. But what about the average Joe Schmo that's renting a house out there? And the property tax goes up, and then they can't afford to pay their rent. Those types of things we need to think. We need to take into consideration. We need to think of when we are looking at these levies. That's where the state's supposed to come in. The state is supposed to pay for the majority of it, and we are supposed to then supplement some of the rest. It is not the entire thing. Okay. Now, the state has been in contempt of court since 2014 for a lack of progress on the 2012 ruling. In November, the court said a plan passed by the legislature last year, which included a statewide property tax increase earmarked for education, satisfied its earlier ruling, but the justices took issue with the fact that the salary component was not fully funded until September 2019. The court retained jurisdiction in the case and gave lawmakers the current legislative session to get the work done. Lawmakers adjourned March 8th and must present to the court a report by April 9th detailing the state's progress. So again, the state needs to pull its collective head out of its butt and get this passed. And they did. Excuse me. But the problem is the state is having a hard how do I want to put this? The state is just having a hard time understanding the problem here. It's not just the funding. And when I say state, I'm now also including the judiciary. We are not just having an issue with the state funding the educational system itself, as far as making sure that they have enough teachers to do the job and make sure those teachers are paid fully, as per their contracts with the teachers union and all that. But we need to make sure that even though programs like No Child Left Behind and whatnot work in some areas, we also need to make sure that we are providing a creative way out for children, an outlet for them, not just how do I put it? It's just one of those things. I know the words I'm trying to look for, and I can't find them in my head. But anyways, now Janesley goes on that saying that while the court case is likely to be done, there's more due on education, including areas like special education. He's quoted as saying, "We are not finished, but this is a big achievement." End quote. It's he also signed. Apparently, also on Tuesday, he signed a property tax cut, which is meant to offset the increase homeowners have seen following the 81 cent per $1,000 of assessed value increase to the statewide property tax that the lawmakers approved last year. That raised the tax from $2.70 per thousand of assessed value. Okay. So let's just do some quick math for this. Oh, what the heck? Of course, I only use it maybe once a week or two, so it's not up there. All right. So it's $2 and let's see here. Oh. Homeowners will see a one-time 30-cent cut to statewide property taxes in 2019, with the rate dropping from 270 to 240. So let's go with the higher value here. So 2.70 times, we'll say the property is assessed. Oh, let's see. $225,000. That don't make sense. I meant to divide that, I bet. Jay is not doing his math right. So I say 225,000. Okay, clearly I have no clue how to do property tax. Because if I multiply, it's like 600,000, and if I do it, it's like 83,000 a year. So something ain't quite right in the way that I'm doing it. So let's see. Let's figure out. Oh, that Jay, because I'm figuring for. This is what I love about the live show is I sit here and I'm trying to figure stuff out, and I totally just realize where I'm making my mistake. So it's for every $1,000. So if I said it's $225,000, it's 225 times 2.70 equals 607.50. Wow, that's such a difficult burden to pay if you split it out with your mortgage. Because what is that divided by 12? And I'm assuming that I'm doing this right. I'm sure I'll hear from people that I'm not, but I don't own a home, so I don't know how it works entirely. But just doing the simple math, like just trying to figure it out, because again, it's $2.70 per $1,000. So if I have a $225,000 assessed property, I times 2.70 times 225, or vice versa, however you want to do that, which means that $607.50 divided by 12 is $50.63 per month in your mortgage payment. I could be wrong. I'm not saying here that I'm right, but based on how I'm understanding the math to work, it seems pretty reasonable. Now, again, that's just the state property tax. That doesn't include all the local, county, and city property taxes to fund things. So, again, that's just the state property tax. Now, we do need to have more. We do need to have more done, like I said, in the community as well. Let's see this supplemental budget also. Wow. Inslee also signed a $414 supplement capital budget. I'm assuming that's got to be an extra $414 million. I don't know, or maybe billion. I don't know. 414 million sounds more reasonable, but supplemental capital budget that puts an additional $46 million towards K-12 construction, building new schools and or repairing, I'm assuming. And it also puts about $65 million towards higher education construction projects, community colleges, state schools, things like that. So, again, this is one of those start, but it's not the only way to do. It's not the only measure that needs to be taken. There's plenty more to be done in the education side of things. We need to, as a state, need to get better about this. We need to do more about it. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about today, hard segue, I know, is the federal government. And again, I haven't been looking at the bills as much as I would like to. I know when I started out, that's kind of where I was wanting to stay is, like the bills and any major Supreme Court hearings. And I have not been following any of those. Because again, I'm trying to follow things that are current in the news and what not. So I went back and just went to congress.gov and went to the top 10 bills being searched for. And one of them is the introduced into the House on February 26, 2018, the Assault Weapons Ban of 2018. It was introduced by the Democrat from Rhode Island, David Sicilian. I have no clue if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry. The last action taken on this was on March 20th, 2018, referring it to the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security and Investigations, a subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee. So, it is known as House Resolution 5087. And this is just a brief summary of what the bill is about. I'm going back to the roots of why I started the politics side of it, or started doing politics podcast. This bill amends the Federal Criminal Code to make it a crime to knowingly import, sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess a semi-automatic assault weapon, or SAW, or a large capacity ammunition feeding device, an LCAFD. On a little side note here, I'm in the middle of my first PR class, public relations class, and the text constantly talks about do not do alphabet soups when dealing with your audience. And again, the audience of the bills are more or less the various Congress representatives, senators, and House of Representatives, not necessarily Joe Public like me, even though the bills are available for us to review. I just find it funny, though, that if you go through anything in the government and try to find something that does not get put down into an acronym of some sort, you're not digging very hard. Almost every aspect of everything I've dealt with in the Navy was a acronym. GPS, Global Positioning Unit. ESGN, Electrostatically Supported Gyro Navigator. SINS, etc., etc., etc. I mean, heck, BCP, Ballast Control Panel. Anyways, in the LCAFD, basically your high capacity. I'm gonna piss off a lot of people by saying this, but clips, magazines, whatever you want to call them, anything that feeds the ammunition into your weapon, your firearm, that is a large capacity, is what they're trying to get banned here. This possession does not apply to a firearm that is manually operated by a bolt, pump, lever, or slide action, permanently inoperable, an antique, or a rifle or shotgun specifically identified by make and model. Additionally, the bill does not prohibit, with respect to a SAW or LCAFD, importation, sale, manufacturing, transfer, possession related to certain law enforcement efforts or authorized tests or experiments, importation, sale, transfer, or possession related to securing nuclear materials, and possession by a retired law enforcement officer. So, if you're a veteran, you guess you're not going to be entitled to it, according to this bill, the way I'm reading this. And this is just a summary, it's not the actual bill. But it's kind of funny. The bill permits continued possession, sale, or transfer of grandfathered SAW, which must be securely stored. A licensed gun dealer must conduct a background check prior to sale or transfer of a grandfathered SAW between private parties. Nice. Kind of going where I wanted to go with gun control, but not quite exactly where I wanted it to. The way I'm reading that last sentence, a licensed gun dealer must conduct a background check prior to the sale or transfer of a grandfathered SAW between private parties. So it basically means if I had a SAW, a semi-automatic assault weapon, I would have to go to a gun dealer and say, hey, I want to sell this to Joe Schmo over here. Please do a background check, and have to pay him a fee to do this, him or her to do this. They would then let me know, and then they would have to basically enact the transaction between the two of us. I don't know. All right, this bill permits the continued possession, but prohibits the sale or transfer of grandfathered LCAFDs. Newly manufactured LCAFDs must display serial number identification. Newly manufactured saws and LCAFDs must display a date of manufacture. The legislation amends the NICS Improvements Amendments Act of 2007, which requires law enforcement agencies to be notified when prohibited persons attempt to purchase a grandfathered saw. It also amends the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1968 to allow a state or local governments to use the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program funds to compensate individuals who surrender a saw or LCAFD under a buyback program. So, if they're going to, apparently, if they're going to manufacture these LCAFDs, they must have a serial number like a gun, and then they also have to have a manufacture date on the weapons. So it's like, on the one hand, with this bill, you're asking them to make it a crime to import, sell, manufacture, transfer, and possess these things. But you're also having a loophole here that if they provide a serial number on newly manufactured items for the large capacity, magazines, then it's okay. Okay. Wow. I don't know what to say about this. This is a bill that's pretty much going to go nowhere, in my opinion, because again, it's saying one thing and doing another. It's like they're just trying to appease their constituency. But here's the thing: most Americans that own guns legally do so legally. Again, I don't want to restrict people of their guns and their ability to get guns that do it legally, that do it in a law-abiding way. I want to make it more difficult for those that shouldn't get them, but again, they're still going to find a way to get them. And it's one of those, what's the Pascal's wager type of things, danged if you do, danged if you don't type of things. But I don't know. This bill just kind of struck me as interesting, and I'm like, what? Why are we doing this? Why are we writing a bill that seems like it's at the start? It seems like it's a good idea to kind of doing the air quotes here, but at the same time, it's one of those. At the same time, it's one of those things that it's just ridiculous that you're going to try and put it back in. That you're basically putting in this giant loophole that, oh, but hey, we put serial number identifiers on this, and put on the manufacture date. So that means these can be sold. All right. So, hold on just a second here, guys. Sorry about that. That was my wife calling to let me know she made it to her destination. Totally forgot that I was recording. So, anyways, long pause there. Sorry about that. These again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if this is a legal loophole that any of the manufacturers could use. I don't know if it's anything that they would want to use if this bill were to pass the way it is. I just don't see it happening. But I've been wrong before, and I can admit that I've been wrong on a lot of things. So, say la vie. if there's anything that you guys want to talk about in these, if there's anything that you guys want to talk about, politically or whatnot, please email me at my politics email at jpoliticspodcast@gmail.com. Please contact me on Twitter. That's great. I'm more than happy to pull a topic and discuss it. I mean, even if it's one that I might need to do a little bit more research into, like something in the state of Minnesota or whatever, or in the state of Iowa, Nebraska, insert any other state name here. I'm willing to go over it. Heck, I'd even be willing to look at Puerto Rican law or Guam or any of the territories. But, don't I do this for me. It allows me to get out my frustrations with the government. But at the same time, I do it to provide information. I do it to allow people to see what's kind of going on in the area. Not just in my neck of the woods in Washington. We discuss in many other areas. Um, Normally I have half an hour, so I usually have about another 20 minutes to go, and I'm struggling to come up with it. So I guess we'll just end it here. It's one of those moments. Well, let's see if I can find anything worthwhile. I mean, I could go more into the Fox News side of things. I've already looked at CNN and Politico. So, all right, let's see if they have anything about Trump and nothing really. Oh, here it is. Let's see how Fox News spins the Trump calls Amazon's deal with Postal Service a scam costing billions of dollars, which is what he did call it. But all right. All right. So this article from Fox News, which is by Joseph Weber. And no, I do not want your video playing in my podcast. So let's go ahead and close that. President Trump reignited his feud with Amazon on Saturday, arguing that the online retailer's quote scam unquote shipping deal with the U.S. Postal Service is costing the agency billions of dollars. Here, quote, it's reported that the U.S. Post Office will lose $1.50 on average for each package it delivers for Amazon. That amounts to billions of dollars, end quote, Trump said over 2 tweets. If the post office increases its parcel rates, Amazon's shipping costs would rise by 2.6 billion. The post office scam must stop. Amazon must pay real costs and in parentheses taxes in parentheses now. And then they show another tweet right below this at real Donald Trump. ... does not include the fake Washington Post, which is used as a lobbyist or quote, which is used as a quote lobbyist end quote and should so register in caps. If the post office, and then it goes into the post office, that segment about the post office and raising its rate. Now I have my answer to my question earlier. It says that it's the Washington Post needs to register as such. However, federal, let's see, where was it? The tweet suggests that Trump got information from the New York Times and attacked the quote fake Washington Post, unquote, which continues to be critical of the Trump administration and is owned by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. The president's tweet on Saturday also suggests Amazon is not paying its fair share of sales tax, that the Post's quote lobbying staff end quote has quote ballooned end quote in an effort to keep favorable tax laws and the postal service deal. However, federal regulators have found the contract with Amazon to be profitable. Quote, I have stated my concerns with Amazon long before the election, end quote, Trump tweeted Thursday. Quote, unlike others, they pay little to no taxes to state and local governments, use our postal system as their delivery boy, open parenthesis, causing tremendous loss to the U.S., in parenthesis or close parenthesis, and are putting many thousands of retailers out of business, end quote. To that extent, I could honestly agree that they are putting a lot of mom and pop shops out of business. I mean, why go down to see if they have something that you want when you can just pop on Amazon, order it, and it'll be here in 2 days with Amazon Prime? That's not, but I still try, even though I myself order a lot from Amazon. I still try to go to the mom and pop stores to get things, whatnot. I mean, I was going to buy this microphone from a local retailer that is a actual road licensed supplier, but they didn't have it in stock. It would take them longer to order it than it would be for me to order it on Amazon. However, they did have the boom arm, and so I bought it from them. No big deal. Probably the next interface, if I buy one, that'll be a little more travel friendly than my mixer here. If I ever, when next time I go on vacation, still want to do this, I will probably end up buying from them. It's just one of those things. We have to learn that our convenience through Amazon is what's causing a lot of these other retailers to have troubles. What's having these other retailers lose out in the business world. Part of the reason why Toys R Us is going out of business. They failed to secure an online market, and they didn't make their stores profitable enough to continue having a brick and mortar store. Same thing with Borders. Soon, I'm sure Barnes & Noble may be going the same way. I don't know for sure. I hope not. I like going and getting an actual book. I'd much rather read a physical book than an ebook. Although having the ebooks on long flights to like Hawaii or cross country or wherever is nice to have multiple books in an e-reader versus carrying a suitcase full of books. So it is one of those. It's one of those things where I've read the CNN side, I've read the Politico side, both liberal media agenda. I'm reading the Fox News side of things, but won't even get started on Breitbart because I'm not going to go there. But it's just one of those things. It's hard for us to understand our impact in this, and we'd much rather blame it on businesses not having their presence felt on the online market or not making it more palatable for us to go into their stores. But, we oftentimes are creatures of habit, and we look for the most convenient way of doing things. And what's the more convenient way of doing things? Making a pizza from scratch or just ordering Domino's or Pizza Hut? What's easier to do? Order my supplies through Amazon and have it delivered, or actually go out and shop and actually, I don't know, take time to go do something because, heaven forbid, I don't let little Johnny do this, or I don't let little Susie do this when we could be out spending time as a family. No, let's just pop on Amazon, do it, or even use their dash buttons. Oh, don't get me started on that. Anyways, further goes on to that Amazon Inc. and the newspaper declined to comment about Trump's claims about the Washington Post being a lobbyist. Amazon lives and dies by shipping, and an increase in rates it pays could certainly do some damage. Amazon sends packages via the post office, FedEx, UPS, and other services. Yes, we all know this. But while the U.S. Postal Service has lost money for 11 years, package delivery, which has been a bright spot for the service, is not the reason. Boosted by e-commerce, the Postal Service has experienced double-digit increase in the revenue from delivering packages, but has not been enough to offset the pension and healthcare costs, as well as declines in first-class letters and marketing mail. This is all stuff that I know from my time working in the post office, and again, albeit 3 months. They pounded this home to us. It's not that we're not losing money on the package side of things. We're losing money on the first class letters, the business mail, the marketing mail, what people call, um, and my post office coworkers and stuff will hate me for this, especially the supervisors, but what we call, oh, what's the term that we all like to use for the mail that just always ends up in the garbage? Oh, yeah, that's right. The junk mail. What you don't understand is that, we got actual retailers that use those mailings to grab your attention, to want you to come shop at their store, to come shop at their business. And if we're just gonna sit there and toss it out onto the side, that's a waste of their money. Now, however, they need to make it so it grabs our attention. So, I mean, it's not just a simple matter of we have to go and sort through and look through everything. No, I mean, these marketers need to do their job, but we also have to be receptive of those jobs. So, anyways, in a long rant here, from Fox News is basically the gist that we need to come up with a better idea of how to do the job that is for all of us. We need to be conscious of what we're buying and where. You know, big box retailers, big box suppliers, Amazon.com, any of those retailers' websites. You know, think about going to your local mom and pop shop. I mean, like I said, I would have much rather bought this from my local music store than to go and buy it on Amazon. Because one, I could have gotten it right then and there. Now there's a USB version of this microphone. I didn't want it. I might end up buying it later in life, but right now I don't need it. But at the same time, I could have bought all this together in one go on Amazon. That simple. And oh, it was tempting. I didn't do that, but I could have. So we need to look at this as an opportunity. We need to look at this as a chance for us as a society to think about this. Is it easier? Is it better for us to have an easier marketing or easier access via Amazon and have people lose their jobs, the retail world like myself lose their jobs over a thing like Amazon being delivered? You know, but oh, Jay, if you lose your job, you can always go work for Amazon. No, I may not want to work for Amazon. I may like where I'm working because of what I'm doing. I may like working at local mom and pop store this or medium-sized small business this that provides these services, you know, versus, working for a big retailer like Amazon or working for a big retailer like Walmart. Yes, there's some job security in the bigger companies, but you don't get to make it that connection. You don't get to make that feel quite as much as you do with the customer as you would at a smaller location. And I even work for a large company that has stores and storefronts all across the country. Not all across the country, but a good way across the country. And it's how to put it, it's one of those things that it's even in my world, making those connections, and I try to make those connections with my customers is difficult because it's so fast paced. It's just go, 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 go. Next customer, next customer, next customer. But I do have some customers that come in and we talk, we chit chat, we BS the whole trip in. I mean, I even have a customer I haven't seen in months because he moved clear to the other side of town from where I work. And him and I, he's a Marine, I'm a sailor. What more needs to be said? We just joke and play around with each other, and other customers either feel offended or blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I just suggest that, if you have an opportunity to buy something, if you're getting into the podcasting world, or if you're getting into any media world, photography, things like that, go to your local shops, go to the local places that do this stuff rather than necessarily going to Amazon, rather than necessarily going to Best Buy or Target or even Walmart. Find out where you can get this stuff locally. Again, if I were more patient, I would have bought the microphone through them. I might have even gotten a deal through them. I didn't, and that's my fault. But at the same time, I also understand that there is a way for me to do this and not completely be a jerk. I can use Amazon for things like if I need something that like now that that's going to take my other person to get me months at a time or weeks, even a week more, then yes, I'm going to go with Amazon. And I don't blame you guys for doing that. I don't blame anybody for doing that. But if I can wait, if I can take the time to wait, then wait. It's not the end of the world if you don't have your package here the next day or the 2 days from 2 days from now. Because if you can't wait that long, it's your fault for not waiting. It's not your fault for planning. Ugh. If you can't wait that long, it is your fault for not planning ahead far enough in time. Now, sometimes things break. I get that. And we need a replacement right away. My mics weren't breaking. I just wanted a better sounding mic. So, in conclusion for today, this week in U.S. politics is just be mindful that, maybe instead of sending an email on something that doesn't need a response right away from a friend or family member, write a letter, like physically grab pen and paper, pencil and paper, and write a letter out. Mail it to them. It's 50 cents a stamp. Now I know that's a lot, but 50 cents for a stamp for a letter. If you're gonna send a card to anybody, which reminds me, I think I still owe somebody something. Oh wait, I need to touch base with them. But nonetheless, we have to if we want to keep things if we want to keep people employed, if we want to keep people in business, we need to help them out. And in order to do so, we need to keep them going. To do that, we need to slow our pace down. We need to stop wanting everything now. Stop wanting the instant gratification of, ooh, I bought this. I have to only wait 2 days now. When you could have possibly, maybe, gone down the road, half an hour drive at most, usually. Like for me, I live in Shelton. The vendor for this microphone here and the associate equipment that I have connected to it is only is in Olympian, basically. It's the next town over. Or south, I guess. I would have to go to them for that if I wanted to, and I'd be willing to do it. I mean, heck, proof right here, boom arm. And I hate using this same example over and over again. But I mean, even going to, if I'm looking at building a computer, I have a choice going to a big box store like Fry's, which is all the way out in Renton, going through Amazon, or going down to Olympia to Fourth Dimension Computers. And they have the stuff that I want, some of it, but not all of it. And I can order through them. So if I do decide to start buying parts to build a computer, I'm probably going to end up going with them. But if I want to do it right away, I might go to Fry's, or I might just buy everything on Amazon if I'm too impatient, which I'm not planning on being. Like I said, I'm probably going to end up going to Fourth Dimension, but it's a project that can take time. It'll be a labor of love. It's like building a car. You can either go to the dealership and have a car already made, or you could go buy a fix-it car and build it back up the way you want it to be. So anyways, this is Jay with Jay's Politics Podcast, part of the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network. And you have been listening to This Week in U.S. Politics. And we are going to be heading out here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Look for me over this week to test out on the radio with my complete setup. So I will be doing another show-ish type of thing this week, maybe a couple more times this week with Dave. Just making sure that the time slots that I pick are okay. And moving forward, to go hopefully by next Saturday. This will be live on the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network, and we'll have everything rolling, and I hope everything will be great. So, again, this is Jay with Jay's Politics Podcast, part of the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network. You can reach us at podcast99.org, or you can reach me directly at Jay's Politics Podcast at gmail.com or jpolypodcast on Twitter. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Easter tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. And for those of you of Jewish faith, if you are watching this after, I hope you had a wonderful Passover. Have a great weekend.